The US dollar might have collapsed by over 10% in the past year, but that didn't stop Donald Trump yesterday saying some outrageous claims about the dollar's strength. Has Donald Trump lost his mind, or is he playing some secret 5D chess game? Are we watching the controlled demolition accelerate, or is something else entirely going on? You have got to watch this clip, but I need you to read between the lines.
Well, Mr. President, with the current value of the dollar, do you think it's declined too much?
No, I think it's great. I mean, the value of the dollar, look at the business we're doing. No, dollar's doing great.
Look, I guess if you're reading this on the surface, you're like, what is he talking about? And let me pull up the charts if you're not familiar with what we are looking at. Of course, we are looking at the US dollar index here, or Dixie as it's more commonly known. Sorry, guys, I didn't have it pulled up here, but here we go. Okay, so what the reporter was, wrong one. What the reporter was talking about here is, let me clean up this chart. Sorry, guys, not that prepared here. Here we go. Look, this is the 12-month dollar index. Let me pull it over here. This is what the reporter was asking on. This is what everyone is looking at. And I think on the surface level might be thinking is what most people think. It's like Donald Trump just really doesn't know what's going on. He just talks. He says what he wants to say. I don't necessarily believe what most people think, that, you know, Donald Trump isn't a smart person. I think to get to the level that he has been able to achieve, he's a savvy person. That's kind of my baseline take here. Now, I know the audience might think differently, but I wouldn't assume that people in this position aren't smart people. You could say maybe other things, you know, alternative theories of, oh, you know, he's corrupt, you know, he made backroom deals. That's how he got so high. Sure. Still, even by saying that, you have to admit he is savvy. Anyways, looking at the dollar index, or Dixie, you can see that the dollar has declined about 11% since Trump got into office, almost 12% here. Since the start of 2025 to today, the dollar has lost 12% of its purchasing power. So the dollar got weaker by 12%. This is why the reporter's asking him, hey, you know, Mr. President, what is going on with the dollar's strength? Is it doing well? Are you afraid? Are we seeing a dollar collapse? And this is, I think, the surface level view of what's going on. If you're seeing what the mainstream media is saying right now, they're looking at this and it's all kinds of panic. They're like, the US dollar is about to collapse. You know, this is why we're seeing the debasement trades go upwards, gold, silver, etc. But in reality, if you listen to what they've been saying, which has been my contention for the last couple of months, actually maybe most of last year, is it does seem like all of this is according to plan. Now, I am not a Trump, you know, trust the plan person. All I'm saying is if you listen to what Trump has been saying, what Scott Bessent has been saying, what people within the administration have been saying, you can sum it up with the idea of the Mar-a-Lago Accords. This is the kind of prevailing idea right now. And I think once you understand this idea, you can start to read between the lines of what Donald Trump is saying, which is very simple. They want to decrease the purchasing power of the dollar, and they want to lower interest rates. Now, we might be on the show long enough today where we can see if the Fed cuts rates today. From most of the prediction markets, it doesn't seem like we're going to see a change. So I'm sure we'll be on long enough to kind of get a live reaction of this. But anyways, let's go in this a little further. Again, you guys know I've been really enjoying the Kobayashi Letter Twitter account. I think they've been doing a really good job. And this is kind of the real time play-by-play call of what happened here. So again, most people don't realize what Trump just said. For the last 12 plus months, the US dollar has been in a sharp decline, falling, as I just showed you, about 12% since 2025. Its worst year since 2017. And guess what happened in 2017 to Bitcoin? I don't know. We had a parabolic run from 1K to 20K, so it's not all bad. Anyways, minutes ago, for the first time, President Trump commented on the decline in the US dollar. Of course, he says that the value of the dollar is great. And then this immediately sent the US dollar another 1% lower to its lowest level since 2022. Why? It's a clear signal that President Trump is willing to tolerate a weaker dollar to push rates lower and boost US exports. You got to own assets or be left behind. I've been saying this on the show. Nico was trolling me a little bit, saying like Opti doesn't care about the middle class. He's basically saying, you know, if you're owning dollars, you're going to be wrecked. I'm like, dude, that's not me saying that. This is what I'm hearing coming out of the administration. This is what I'm hearing is the monetary policy currently playing out in the U.S. And for better or worse, we are the world reserve currency. So everything is downstream from what the U.S. does with their monetary policy. So I'm just here saying, look, you may not like Trump, but you should listen to what he's saying and not have this emotional reaction to what he's saying and be like, he's an idiot. He doesn't know what's going on. I think this is all going according to plan. And again, I don't want you guys to like QAnon me and be like, he's a plan truster, bro. I've been probably more critical of Trump than most Bitcoiners have in the last couple of years. I'm okay with the Bitcoin push. A lot of the other stuff I'm not so okay with. Anyways, going further, this is where I think the playbook starts to make sense, which is why you need to own assets. Again, here's Kobayashi, which is the founder of Kobayashi Letter. And he goes, President Trump on the US dollar after it posted its worst year since 2017 is doing great. The US dollar is doing exactly what Trump wants it to do, which is what I've been saying. It's pricing in lower interest rates and helping boost exports. We're going to be the only winners here. You need to own assets. Like, this is why the S&P 500 is going up. This is why real estate, even though you could say it's in a tough position, this is why it seems like prices are going up on homes. This is why gold and silver are going up. Yes, Bitcoin's been in a coma for the last year or so, but Bitcoin is an asset. It is a commodity. It is digital gold, etc. So Bitcoin's time will come. Anyways, this is where you really start to see that maybe this is a part of a bigger kind of plan. And even though that Donald Trump is the president of the United States, so he has to go out there and say, I want a strong dollar, in reality, it seems like they're doing the opposite, which is essentially what Simon Dixon has been saying. If you go back to what we did yesterday on the interview, Simon Dixon laid out the plan very clearly. Anyways, here is, I would argue, probably a more, different bet. And goes, someone please tell this clown that a weaker dollar is, he's quoting tweet this because this is probably the prevailing sentiment from corporate press. The U.S. dollar lost over 10% of its value under Scott Bessent, yet this clown claims to be America first. So here we go. Someone please tell this clown that a weaker dollar is the entire point. Bessent did this on purpose, and yet liberals and finance influencers continue to talk about this like it's some sort of economic disaster because framing it that way is politically convenient and drives clicks. Go read Stephen Marin's paper from November 2024 about restructuring the global trading system. He explicitly argues that U.S. deindustrialization is a direct consequence of the dollar status as the global reserve currency, which forces constant and ever-growing trade deficits and an overvalued dollar. Everything Bessent is trying to do is outlined in that paper. Every time liberals complain about a weaker dollar, what they're essentially saying is that zero industrial capacity and infinite debt are perfectly normal things that we must continue into perpetuity. And here we go. Here's an executive summary. And you could see the highlighted part, which perfectly sums up why Donald Trump, I think, is saying that the dollar is doing great. Quote, the root of the economic imbalances lie in persistent dollar overvaluation that prevents the balancing of international trade. And this overvaluation is driven by inelastic demand for reserve assets. Again, what has all this tariff stuff been, or at least allegedly been about? It's about onshoring industrialization into the U.S. Now, what you could argue the economics of this, you could argue and say, oh, this is really just a tax on the consumer. This isn't going to actually do anything. This is a short-sighted plan for a long-term plan that probably is never going to happen. But again, they're telling you exactly what they want to do, which from my view is like, guys, just listen to what they've been saying And you're going to get the signal here, which is you need to own assets. And in my opinion, you need to own Bitcoin. As we've been talking about, the dollar has been weaponized. The only way to escape what we are potentially entering in, whether it's a digital panopticon or a future where your purchasing power is completely wrecked and you can't ever make it out of the matrix, they're telling you what they're going to do. In my opinion, it's very clear as day what they want to do. They're saying it constantly. They're saying it in different ways. And you just kind of have to listen to what they're saying. It's pretty obvious. Anyways, Kobayashi Letter essentially lays the playbook, lays the framework, lays the blueprint out very clearly in this tweet. A weaker U.S. dollar helps drive looser financial conditions, aka more rate cuts, a higher nominal GDP growth, higher asset prices, higher U.S. exports, and a lower trade deficit, and easier debt servicing for the U.S. government. This is why Trump said the dollar is doing great. So if you're looking at this on the surface, you're like, bro, this clown doesn't know what's going on. He doesn't understand the economy. If you read between the lines, it seems like they're doing exactly what they want to do. Now, you can say I'm a conspiracy theorist. You can say, hey, man, you're a Trumper and you think he's going to be our savior. I'm saying the opposite. All I'm saying is this is most likely what's going to happen. They're going to destroy the purchasing power of the dollar because it makes it easier for them to do everything they want to do, which is, onshore industry, cut rates, which has been perfectly defined as the Mar-a-Lago Accords. Mark Moss has been saying this. A lot of other Bitcoiners have been saying this. Even people outside of Bitcoin have been saying this. It's a pretty simple plan of what they want to do. They want to destroy the purchasing power of the dollar. They want to cut interest rates because they're trying to onshore industry. They're trying to make it easier to essentially repay their debt. Again, the big print, nothing stops this train. We're heading into the midterms. Everyone feels kind of poor right now. The economy, depending on what you're looking at, isn't running so hot. So the only way they can really get themselves out of this position is they have to print a shit ton of money. They have to add more liquidity into the system. So if you're reading all of this stuff, if they're essentially laying out the plan for you as clear as day, you pretty much have two choices here. You can either complain on Twitter, go out there and be like, oh, voting doesn't work. We got to put some pressure on Trump. He doesn't know what he's doing. He's blowing up the economy. Or you just position yourself accordingly, which is you need to own assets. And if you're looking at the stock market, it's continuing to go up. You're looking at dollar strength, it's going down. You're looking at gold and silver. Maybe you're like, man, I should have bought it. Maybe I want to buy the top. I wouldn't do that. I would just, continue to accumulate Bitcoin. This is the play. This is the move. Now, going further, here is Ray Dalio, and even he is saying exactly what's going on, but on the flip side of the coin. And the thing about Ray Dalio, he's been in the game for a long time. The only problem from my perspective with Ray Dalio is that he does seem to be, how do I put this, like a China maxi. He is looking at the, destruction of the dollar as the world reserve currency. And maybe it's because of his age, and I'm not trying to be an ageist here, but he's looking at what China is doing, and he's very consistent and very adamant about the idea that the yuan is going to be the next reserve currency. From a younger perspective, from someone half his age, I think he's missing the Bitcoin kind of game here. And yes, he's been slowly but surely a little more positive about Bitcoin, but he still doesn't believe that Bitcoin has the potential to fit that world reserve currency role. But anyways, here's Ray Dalio's take on this, and I really want you to focus on the very end of this clip. It's a short clip, but this is the game. So I'm giving you both perspectives, and they're saying the same thing. So if you don't like Trump, maybe you're not that familiar with Ray Dalio. Maybe you think I'm an idiot. Maybe you're like, I'm not going to listen to this guy with 42 IQ on YouTube, but I'm just listening to what they're saying. And the game is so clear. It's so clear to me. Maybe it's because I've been in Bitcoin for so long. Maybe it's because I have these fresh eyes looking at macro and geopolitics right now, that this just makes sense to me. If they tell you they're going to do it, the real question is, are they capable of actually doing it? Not whether it's good or bad. I think that's the wrong question to be asking. It's, can they actually do this? Well, if you're looking at what they're doing, it seems like they're doing it. So here's Ray Dalio's take on this.
So, for example, last year, American markets significantly underperformed foreign markets. And people don't quite realize that. And the best asset class, in a sense, was gold, but think of that as being the money. So in answer to your question, okay, I've learned, that was a lesson I learned, that if there's a depreciation in the value of money, it makes everything look like it's going up.
Did he not just give the game out at the very end? If you're looking at currency depreciation, it looks like all assets are going up. Is that not what's playing out right now? I think it's very clear. Look, I'm going to pull up the Dixie again. Or sorry, not the Dixie. I'm going to pull up the S&P 500. And you can look at this and say a couple of things. Look, here's the S&P 500, which, as we all know, there's probably, generally speaking, two main assets that most people hold, or most older generations hold: real estate, the S&P 500. Now, obviously, there's other stocks out there. There's other equities. Like, everyone doesn't just hold the S&P 500. But looking at the S&P 500, it's almost like a pulse on how strong America is. Now, of course, that's a crude kind of simplification of the economy. Is just like, okay, S&P 500 is going up, but that's kind of the layman view of this. So S&P 500, here we go. The 12-month, chart here. Each candle is a year. You can see the S&P 500 is up 7% or 17%. Now, again, go back to the Dixie. The Dixie is down about negative 11%. Now, historically, the S&P 500 goes up about 9% a year. But the number is interesting when you think about it in inflation adjusted returns, real returns, as they like to call it. And that's about 6 or 7%. Guys, look, call me an idiot, call me reaching, call me connecting certain dots, but the S&P 500 is up about 17%. Dollar strength is down about negative 11, negative 12%. That 5 to 6% difference, is that the real adjusted inflation of, the growth of the economy? Is this not all aligning perfectly? I might be connecting certain dots here, but to me, with a very, left side of the bell curve take of this, it seems like it's doing exactly what they want it to do. Depreciating the currency, and at the same time that you depreciate the currency, all these assets continue to go up. That doesn't necessarily mean you're making more money. But what's interesting is most people don't understand this very simple view here, which most Bitcoiners do. And this is where we bring in the Bitcoin take here. And I saw this really good tweet here from Nick Szabo, which started with this guy basically saying that Nick Szabo called the top perfectly in October 17th of last year. And he goes, which is something I've been saying the last couple of weeks, which I know you guys don't like, but Nico was kind of right about us being in a bear market priced in gold. And he goes, the cycle top happened around New Year's Day, but in dollar terms, New Year's Day, again, 2025, which is essentially, when Trump got into office, though it was January 20th is when he really got in office, but the euphoria did happen when Trump got elected. And the start of the new year is when we essentially got the top in. So Szabo, again, cycle top happened around New Year's Day, but in dollar terms, the bear has mostly been masked by the debasement trade, which now a year later, we've seen gold and silver run. And as we've been talking about, the debasement trade is happening in real time. Anyways, if you price Bitcoin in gold, you'll see the top, which I showed you guys on the chart the other day. I'll pull it up for you guys so you guys know that I'm not just making things up here. Here is, again, I guess maybe I should, not show you all my TA stuff here. Again, here is December 24th, essentially, start of the new year, top of Bitcoin price in gold. Look at the gold chart, or Bitcoin price in gold chart. Clearly looks like a bear market. It's pretty clear what's going on here. Okay, so oh wait, I didn't show you guys. All right, here we go. There it is. Bitcoin price and gold is in a bear market. Argue with the chart all you want. Okay, now going back to what Szabo said, which I think very clearly defines what's going on right now, where we are in the debasement trade, and further, how early we are. So Mason Ford quote tweets this and goes, "This was a particularly astute observation just 7 days after 1010, which was a huge liquidation event." And then someone comes in and asks a question, and this question is low-key kind of hilarious, okay? Baluki goes, "Szabo, if gold and Bitcoin are going in opposite directions due to this debasement trade, what gives Bitcoin its value if it doesn't work as a hedge against currency debasement anyways? I thought the entire point of Bitcoin was that it cannot be debased." Szabo responds, "Bitcoin is riding a learning curve like a NASDAQ stock. There are still plenty of people like you who haven't learned why Bitcoin in the long term works as a hedge against debasement. So there is still plenty of upside." Baluki responds, and this is where it's kind of funny to me, and he goes, "I can't wrap my head around why Bitcoin works as a hedge against debasement long term if when massive debasement happens short term, gold goes up and Bitcoin goes down. Any help?" Man, bless his soul, bless his soul. And then he kind of gets dunked on. He goes, "You can't wrap your head around why Bitcoin works as a hedge against debasement long term because it hasn't worked short term. In the long term, Bitcoin has most certainly worked as a hedge against debasement." Oh, God, you got to love Twitter. You can't delete Twitter. Anyways, Nick Szabo comes in, and I think this is the crux of what we're seeing right now. A lot of people are asking, look, why is gold running? Why is silver running? And as I've been saying, I think it's just because people are most familiar with those trades. Gold's been around for a long time. Gold has acted as a debasement hedge for a very long time. When there's uncertainty in fiat currencies, you go into gold. Or further, when there is uncertainty in the economy, you go into the hardest asset, which historically has been gold. Anyway, Szabo responds and he goes, "It's hard to tell that Bitcoin protects against debasement from just its price, since most of the price rise since the pizza purchase has been due to the learning curve, not to debasement. Fiat has fallen, but not by nearly as much as Bitcoin has risen. To understand why Bitcoin has and very likely will protect in the long term against debasement better than gold has and will requires deep understanding of the underlying respective technologies that are gold and Bitcoin, especially in terms of their respective extents and qualities of trust minimization. And it requires knowing why trust minimization is valuable. These kinds of understandings are still uncommon." The short of it is basically, I hate to say it, but most people just don't understand Bitcoin. They don't understand what we're doing here as Bitcoiners. They're probably, as I was joking this morning, they probably haven't done their 40 per hours per week on Bitcoin of why it's the superior money, why it is a superior debasement trade or debasement hedge. And yes, in the short term, maybe Bitcoin doesn't act as the superior hedge in the short term. It definitely does in the long term. And that's where I think we are right now. Yes, Bitcoin has been in a coma. Bitcoin has gone sideways for over a year. It's been about like a year and a half in dollar terms. We've been joking about the fact that Bitcoin is a stable coin. We've been joking about the fact that is number go up ever coming back. All of these things we've been talking about. And yet, when we see gold and silver run, it's very interesting that a lot of Bitcoiners looking at that run and being like, "Oh man, I should have bought gold. I should have bought silver." Even I was joking about it. I'm like, man, I should have bought, strategy. I should have bought gold. I should have bought silver. Why am I in Bitcoin? Obviously, I'm trolling. I'm complaining. I get my dopamine rushes from complaining and yet doing the opposite of what I'm complaining about. But anyways, it goes into what we've been talking about, or rather what Bitcoiners have been talking about for a long time. We are still very early in this. The asymmetric knowledge of what Bitcoin is, what it will do, I think is still not evenly distributed through the culture yet. People are more comfortable with gold and silver. People are more comfortable with those trades than they are with Bitcoin. Remember, Bitcoin is still looked at as a risk-on trade. Whereas to us, it's the risk-off trade. It's the finish line. It's the end goal. Maybe we're extremists. maybe we are the ones that had nothing to lose, and therefore we just went all the way to the end, and now we understand in hindsight why Bitcoin is that move. But most people aren't there yet. So anyways, to put a bow tie on this, yes, you can look at what Donald Trump said yesterday and claim that he's an idiot, he doesn't know what he's saying. I know a lot of people are going to say that. I would push you to think in a little deeper than the emotional knee-jerk reaction. When you listen to what people in the administration have been saying, it is, I hate to say it, all going according to the plan that they've set out. And I'm not a trust the plan guy. I'm not a Trump is my savior guy. I'm just saying, listen to what they're saying and then see if their actions are, aligned with their official mandate or with the perception and the narratives of their mandate. Again, as the president of the United States, the kind of implied narrative is we want a strong dollar. From the beef we've seen with Powell, with Trump, with the tariffs, the implied narrative is they want lower interest rates, they want lower purchasing power so that they can onshore, industry on the U.S., so that we can boost U.S. exports, so that we can basically be able to pay back our debt easier. If your purchasing power goes down, you can print more money and the, dollar amount stays the same. All I'm saying is it is playing out like the Mar-a-Lago Accords essentially laid out, which for a while there may have been conspiracy theory. It could have been, a speculation of what they're doing. But after hearing a lot of the conversations that I've laid out on the show for you, it's hard for you guys to see this and be like, that's not what's happening. Anyways, with all that being said, the solutions are very simple. You need to own assets. If you don't own assets right now, you're really going to get left behind. And this is where I literally plea, and I think about this constantly. I'm like, how many different ways can I tell people to buy Bitcoin when they're very clearly telling you they're going to destroy your purchasing power? I get it. Most people are living paycheck to paycheck. They don't have excess funds, but you really have to figure out a way to own assets, whether that means trying to make more money, cutting back on your expenses. The game plan is very simple. They're going to pump assets. You need to own assets. I don't care if you're buying the S&P 500, which I wouldn't do. I don't care if you're buying gold. I really don't care if it's Bitcoin at this point. To protect yourself, you need to have assets. Now, obviously, I think you guys should be buying Bitcoin. I think Bitcoin is the most accessible thing for everyone to buy. But at this point, I'm just like, I just want people to understand what I think is going on. And I'm not the smartest guy here that's like beating my chest and saying, oh, look how smart I am. I figured it out. No, I'm just saying this seems to be what's happening. Take it with a grain of salt. I may be wrong. I could be right. Doesn't matter at this point. You just need to own assets. They're going to pump assets through the roof. Trump said it multiple times. He's basically, benchmarking his presidency off whether the economy does well, whether the S&P 500 does well, and whether Bitcoin/crypto does well. These are things he said. Again, you can listen to what he says, you can call him an idiot, or you just position yourself correctly. You need to buy Bitcoin. You need to accumulate Bitcoin continuously. I think that's the only way that you can literally escape the matrix as the, I can't even speak today. The gym's got me wrecked. Anyways, you already know the deal. All right, guys. So going further for the rest of the show, I think the big content creators are finally getting the call to push Bitcoin. We got Peter Schiff on Tucker Carlson yesterday. I am going to play a big clip here, but it's a little longer than usual, but I think it's going to be a good conversation. And then later, We got some interesting kind of updates coming out of Saylor. There was a back and forth, and finally Saylor answered one of the big questions that everyone's been talking about. And then to wrap up the show, I'm just going to show you guys, Bitcoin's still been winning if you zoom out a little bit. So that's today's layout of the show. There is a theme here. You need to buy Bitcoin. The game plan is pretty clear. They're going to print. They're going to run the economy hot. You got to protect yourself and own assets. All right, guys. First ad break. I'll be right back.
Today's episode is brought to you by Bitcoin Well Infinite. If you're a serious Bitcoin buyer, you've probably hit the same wall. Most platforms make you give up custody just to play by the rules. Bitcoin Well Infinite fixes that. They're North America's only publicly traded, non-custodial OTC desk listed on the TSX Venture Exchange, which means transparent operations and zero counterparty risk.
You buy Bitcoin, you take immediate control, period. For trades over $50,000, you get a dedicated executive Bitcoin advisor, competitive spread starting at 1%, and immediate delivery straight to your own wallet. No custody risk, no withdrawal fees, just institutional grade execution with full asset control. If you want to buy Bitcoin the right way, book a free consultation at bitcoinwell.com/OTC or email infinite@bitcoinwell.com.
I want to give a shout out to our partner, StampSeed. Is your Bitcoin in cold storage really secure? Are your seed phrases really secure? StampSeed's do-it-yourself kit has everything you'll need for you to hammer your seed words into commercial-grade titanium plates instead of just writing them down on paper. Paper is fragile. Titanium plates are strong. Your words are actually stamped into the titanium plate with this hammer and these letter stamping tools. Once the words are in, they aren't going anywhere. No risk of the plate breaking apart and pieces falling everywhere. Titanium stamp seeds will survive nearly triple the heat produced by a house fire. They are also crush-proof, waterproof, non-corrosive, and time-proof. And now you can customize your titanium seed plates. You can upload your design or logo, and they will laser engrave it on the back of your seed plate, the opposite side of where the words are. Stamp your seed on StampSeed and use promo code SIMPLY to get 15% off anything on the stampseed.com store.
All right, guys, hold on. I hope you don't hear these Rumble ads. I was making sure that the Rumble was working, and I can't can't mute these yet. Hold on, give me one second. Here we go. Okay, we are working. I hope you guys didn't hear that. All right, the current Bitcoin price is 89,840. And one little kind of bullish takeaway. I was looking at the chart this morning because I saw everyone saying that we got back to 90K. And remember I've been telling you guys that the 2-year uptrend, basically since the ETF was launched, it did get nuked last month. But this month we are, inching back towards that trend line. And I'm not bullish because my trend line is kind of coming back to life. Who knows what happens next month? But if we get some bullish action next month and we reclaim the trend line, then my thesis is 100% completely, I would say, validated again. Let me move the goalpost one more time. But I was looking at it, and it did look like, lower highs on the monthly. Yes, we got down to 80, but still, if 80K holds up, that's still a lower high from the last time we had a dip. Made me feel a little bullish. Anyways, the discount from all-time high is 28.8%. The market cap inching back towards 2 trillion. We're at 1.8. And the block height, TikTok next block, is 934,111. I repeat, 934,111. Okay, guys. So Peter Schiff was on Tucker Carlson yesterday. Now, whether you like Tucker Carlson or not, I'm a bit skeptical of Tucker, to say the least. But with that being said, he is probably one of the biggest podcasters or independent content creators right now. And my first view, or rather my first maybe cynical thought on this is, hey, Tucker got the call to talk positively about Bitcoin. Now, he did bring Peter Schiff on, obviously, because gold's been running. Peter Schiff is a classic gold bug. Yes, Peter Schiff is a Bitcoin heel. he has to talk smack about Bitcoin. His business model runs on the idea that, hey, gold is superior to Bitcoin. So I'm not surprised that part of the Tucker Carlson Peter Schiff interview, Bitcoin got brought up. But I do want to kind of comment on the tone of Tucker Carlson around Bitcoin, which I think is a little different than what we've seen in the past. Again, this clip is a little longer than usual, but there's a lot to digest here. And also, guys, I didn't clip this myself, and there is kind of like some background noise to it, but you'll still be able to, get the gist of this. So this is a longer clip, but I think it's worth it.
What they're looking for in crypto is validation. They want the regulation to validate product in the industry so they can get people to buy it by saying the government has blessed it. Right. See, the government now endorses it. The government is supporting it. And the reason that so many politicians, including Trump, the reason that they support Bitcoin is because Bitcoin supported them, right? People that got into Bitcoin early made so much money because so many other people got in late that they were able to pay off a bunch of politicians and get them to support Bitcoin. They supported this whole idea of a Bitcoin strategic reserve, which is really just a Bitcoin bailout fund trying to use taxpayer money to buy out Bitcoin. But the Bitcoin industry was able to pay off a lot of politicians. And because
can I just ask though, I mean, a lot of what you're saying is obviously true, but I also think you've described the decline of the US dollar. It's diminishing purchasing power. Mm-hmm. So clearly there needs to be a new global reserve currency. You don't want it to be one owned by a geopolitical rival. So why wouldn't Bitcoin be the new global reserve currency?
Well, first of all, gold is money. It's not currency. And so there's a difference between money and currency. So currency is backed by money. So when we were on a gold standard and we had paper that was redeemable in gold, the paper was currency. The gold was money. So currency is like a money substitute. But you can have two kinds of currency. You can have legitimate currency, which is backed by real money, or you can have fiat currency, which is backed by nothing. And so what we have now is fiat currency. And the question is, well, could we replace that with Bitcoin? And I don't think that that's possible, because I don't think that Bitcoin has any value beyond its appeal that, a greater fool is going to come and buy it. Central banks can't hold Bitcoin as a reserve against their own currency. If they had to sell it, I mean, the price would drop sharply. You have to have real money. That's why all these central banks.
But under our current system, you don't have real money. You have the US dollar, which is real because people have decided it's real. It's an act of faith. And their faith in that is declining because it's been used as a political weapon, as I thought so crisply.
Okay. All right. I mean, first of all, obviously you can tell that Peter Schiff is biased, and most Bitcoiners don't even listen to Peter Schiff. Now, I don't really need to go too far into Peter Schiff, but I will bring up a good tweet to kind of counter what Peter Schiff has been saying. And yes, he's been right. I hate to say it. Last year, he was right. All right. Look, I'll give him his flowers. Yes, gold had a great run. I'm not necessarily a gold hater. I'm like, look, thanks, Ankh. You were right about the hard money thesis. We'll take it from here this year, okay? Hey, Ankh. Hey, Grandpa yelling at clouds. You're right, but you're wrong about Bitcoin. The second part of this, which I think is from my perspective as like a talking head, a personality, is someone that covers the Bitcoin news, someone that basically does the same job as Tucker Carlson. I'm actually impressed by Tucker Carlson pushing back on Peter Schiff here. Now, there's probably some things that I don't necessarily agree with, but that's besides the point. My kind of takeaway, again, maybe it's because I'm cynical. You could say I'm black-pilled, whatever you want to say. But I was just thinking, watching this, like I said earlier, I'm like, I think Tucker might have got the call. Tucker got the call to say nice things about Bitcoin. Now, the reason I'm saying that is, and actually, maybe the Freudian slip of where, I don't know if you guys caught that, but he did mention Tether in there. Could be a Freudian slip. Could be a misspeaking. But when he meant to say, world reserve neutral asset like Bitcoin, he said Tether. Now, maybe that is where he got the call from. I don't know. I'm not trying to mind read here. But anyways, it does seem very interesting from my perspective. Again, Tucker Carlson is probably behind Joe Rogan, one of the biggest broadcasters right now, independent content creator, actually biggest talking head. It's probably Joe Rogan and Tucker Carlson, bigger than all of the corporate press. And the fact he's saying things favorably towards Bitcoin, he's making a pretty good point. Maybe he has historically said he doesn't understand Bitcoin. He doesn't necessarily invest in Bitcoin. So it is interesting that his tune has slightly changed. And maybe this is the foundation for, I wouldn't necessarily say full-blown shilling of Bitcoin, but if you listen closely and if you listen to what he's said in the past, it is a slight change of tune. He does seem a little more favorable. Now, the last part I want to talk about is the whole, greater fool theory. I mean, if Bitcoin is a greater fool theory, then I guess so is gold. Like, everyone just buys gold to increase their purchasing power, store their value so that they can exchange it for something else. It's the same thing, Peter. It's the same thing. We're doing the same thing as you are. We just have a better technology. I love gold. I love the way gold feels. I love the way gold makes me feel. But I just think in the 21st century that we're in the digital internet world that we're in, gold will not work as money. Yes, currently people are storing their value. Central banks are storing their value in gold. But I do think that as we progress further into this more digitized world, Bitcoin will catch up to gold eventually. Do I know the timeline? No. If gold keeps running the way it's running last year, it's going to take a lot longer than we all expected. But with that same token, I think Bitcoin can catch up pretty quickly. The law of big numbers no longer applies in the world that we live in. Bitcoin can very clearly 2, 3, 4, 5, 10x from here, considering that gold and silver added multiples to their market caps, and their market caps were significantly bigger than Bitcoin's. It's not out of the realm of possibility. Anyways, with that being said, I do want to bring up the numbers. Great tweet by Eric Balkunas, again, senior ETF analyst for Bloomberg. And he goes, the dread I see from Bitcoiners and the football spiking from the haters, aka Peter Schiff, is very short-sighted to me, given that since 2022, right before the BlackRock ETF filing, Bitcoin is up 429%, gold is up 177%, silver is up 350%, and NASDAQ QQQ is up 140%. In other words, Bitcoin spanked everything so bad in 2023 and 2024, which people seem to have forgotten, that those other assets still haven't caught up even after having their greatest year ever and Bitcoin being in a coma. In my opinion, what happened was the institutionalization narrative got priced in very quickly and ahead of it all actually happening, so it had to take a breather so the actual narrative could catch up to the price. Do you feel better now? You're welcome. I do like the arrogance at the end of shout out to Eric Balkunas. I think he's been doing some good stuff. And you don't necessarily have to like Eric Balkunas, but he's been pretty favorable at Bitcoin. And I appreciate charts like this to be like, hey man, you're right. Look, Peter Schiff's right. 2025 and I guess the start of 2026 has been gold and silver. Maybe Bitcoin had to take a breather. But as Bitcoiners like to say, just zoom out. We're good. I think Bitcoin's going to catch up. I think this is all playing out exactly as designed. There was actually another interesting clip, which I could have brought in here. It was on Bloomberg. It was some lady. I don't know who she is. She's head of some digital asset department. And she was talking about gold and silver a little bit and how essentially, the trade's so hot. A lot of the older generations are buying into it. But what interested her the most was the younger generations are more interested in Bitcoin. And all of this just, very clearly makes me think it's like, all right, cool. The gold bugs had their day. We got a little more time here. We got a little more time in the game. And I think Bitcoin's going to catch up. I don't know if it's this year, 2 years from now, 3, 4 years from now, but Bitcoin is going to make moves that's going to surprise everyone. This is a good one. Down under blues. Peter is not wrong about gold. He's just wrong about Bitcoin. Couldn't agree more. That's where we are. He's got a blind side on Bitcoin because his business is gold. Though I think this is all theater or key fob. Is it kayfabe? Key fob. I think it's key fob. It's a wrestling term. You know, that's all acting. It's all a show. And I think he's really a Bitcoiner. He has to be. He's a hard money advocate. It's just like he gets more engagement by hating on Bitcoin. The best engagement he gets on Twitter is by hating on Bitcoin and Bitcoiners piling in. His business is gold. So obviously he's got an incentive to shit on Bitcoin. Like a lot of Bitcoiners do. A lot of Bitcoiners hate on gold. And I was like that for a while. But I like gold. It might be in my DNA. You know, it's in my DNA to love some gold. Guys, I don't know what it is. I hold some gold. It just makes me feel good. But holding Bitcoin in cold storage makes me feel even better. Well, that was cringe. Anyways, let's get updated with Saylor. Saylor made an interesting tweet that it is kind of a trust me bro moment. But if I remember correctly, I think this is the first time he's responded to these allegations. So shouts out to Saylor. We'll be right back.
I want to give a shout out to our partner, Ledin, the leader in Bitcoin-backed loans. Unlock the liquidity in your Bitcoin without having to sell your Bitcoin. They've issued $9 billion in loans to over 10,000 customers since 2018. I absolutely love these guys. Not only do I have an account with them, but I also have a loan. And what I love about them is that there are no monthly payments, and you could pay back the loan at any time. As soon as you send your Bitcoin as collateral, you'll have cash in your account within 24 hours. Over 1,000 five-star customer reviews, and they've never lost a single dollar or sat of customer money. Go to learn.ledin.io/simply today, and you'll get 0.25% off your first loan. I want to give a shout out to our partner, sat123.com. Sovereignty isn't just about your money. It's about your communications too. When the grid goes down, most people go dark. Cell towers fail in hurricanes, cyber attacks, and blackouts. But satellite phones? They don't rely on local infrastructure. Iridium has 77 satellites in orbit, giving you a direct line anywhere in the US, even offshore. If you hold your own Bitcoin keys, you should hold your own comms too. Sat123.com also has everything you need to start building your Bitcoin citadel. Starlink, battery backups, Faraday bags to protect your hardware wallets, and much, much more. It's a one-stop shop for anyone serious about resilience and off-grid independence. Stay connected, stay independent, stay sovereign. Go to sat123.com/simply today and use promo code SIMPLY to get 15% off anything on the store. I want to give a shout out to our partner, BitKey. If you already self-custody your Bitcoin, you know the deal with hardware wallets by now. Complex setups, clumsy interfaces, and a seed phrase that can be lost, stolen, or forgotten. BitKey fixes that. BitKey is a multi-sig hardware wallet built by the team behind Square and Cash App. It packs a cryptographic recovery system and built-in inheritance feature into an intuitive, easy-to-use wallet with no seed phrase to sweat over. It's simple, secure, self-custody without the stress. Time named BitKey one of the best inventions of 2024. Get 20% off at bitkey.world. That's BITKEY.world with the code SIMPLY.
Oh, sorry guys. The chat, you guys are savage. Okay. Anyways, one of the biggest things we've seen since this last summer, as it was coined, paper Bitcoin summer, is this idea of whether the ETFs and the Bitcoin treasuries are actually buying Bitcoin, because it makes no sense with the amount of Bitcoin that they're supposedly buying, why the Bitcoin price isn't going up. And there's been a lot of talk about Saylor needing to prove his reserves. There's been a lot of contention, a lot of doubt, a lot of speculation that Michael Saylor is, or rather Strategy, is actually buying that 700,000 plus coins. And excuse me, hold on. And further, whether BlackRock is actually buying all that coin. They hold about 1 million coins now. Whether the ETFs, whether Wall Street is actually buying that Bitcoin, how much paper Bitcoin is in the system? Is there rehypothecation concerns? Are there more than 21 million Bitcoin being traded currently? Or rather, let me get the official number, because we haven't got the 21 million. So is there more than 19.98 million Bitcoin being traded right now via paper contracts. These are all concerns we've been kind of grappling with for the last 6-7 years at this point, right? Well, we did get kind of some confirmation from Saylor. It is sort of a trust me, bro moment. So, you know, we'll take it with a grain of salt, but I think this is the first time that he's actually acknowledged this. I know he's said this in the past, but I think for him to go out on Twitter and acknowledge it is very interesting, considering some of the things we've heard Saylor say in the last couple of weeks. It seems like he, you know, specifically the Danny Knows What Bitcoin Did podcast and Saylor, it seems like he is getting fed up with some of the pushback right now, and he's just taking no prisoners. Anyways, what am I talking about? Did I say 6-7? Damn, caught in 4K. All right, we have Jesse Myers here. Of course, Creases. He does great work as well. Quoting Saylor on the 26th that Strategies acquired 2,932 more Bitcoin for 264.1 million at roughly 90K per coin. As of now, they hold 712,647 Bitcoin, acquired for roughly $54 billion at roughly a $76,000 Bitcoin price. Now, this is one of the things we've been talking about. We've been saying that the amount of buying pressure from just the Bitcoin treasury companies is outpacing the amount of Bitcoin that's being released. Then you add the ETFs, then you add retail, then you add sovereign wealth funds. Something has to break. Something has to give. The selling seems to have slowed down. The amount of buying pressure at some point, the coin has to rocket. You know, at some point, the corn has to sprout. Anyways, Jesse Myers quote tweets and goes, Strategy has acquired 40,150 Bitcoin so far in 2026, and only 11,700 Bitcoin has been mined so far in 2026. Eventually, the Bitcoin price must go higher, much higher. You know, just I'm not trying to shit on Jesse, but just some grade A hopium here on the timeline. Love it. Anyways, Jameson Lott replies, your thesis is sensible under the assumption that Strategy is buying real Bitcoin. Does Strategy actually verify that their Bitcoin only belongs to them and isn't rehypothecated? I'm skeptical. Now, Saylor has, you know, talked about this a few times. Here he is on the timeline this morning. We buy real Bitcoin. We don't rehypothecate. Now, again, this is a trust me, bro moment. I'll give you that. But I think the fact that he is out here saying, look, I'm not, he's been very adamant. He's like, I'm not going to do proof of reserves because of various, you know, factors that maybe I am too dumb to understand, or maybe you guys are too dumb to understand. I'm putting words in his mouth. But him coming out here, I think we're starting to see like I think the skepticism around Saylor is starting to get to him, and he's not taking any prisoners. So it is a trust me, bro moment, but from, you know, the head of a public company, for him to say it, like, he can't lie about it, from my opinion, or from my understanding here. So he goes, we buy real Bitcoin, we don't rehypothecate. Jameson Lott responds, but how do you know your custodians don't? Presumably, they put your Bitcoin in segregated addresses that you can monitor. People ask for proof of reserves since they don't even know what monitoring and assurances you put in place. Multiple layers of trusted black boxes make folks nervous. I do agree with the pushback. It is a trust me, bro moment, but you know, you gotta love Mr. Hottie. You gotta love the memes. I don't believe you. Let me see if he responded since I went live. Let me see. Even if they're getting PR proof of reserves from the custodians to form a list of addresses they can monitor, there's no guarantee some of those addresses aren't also being sent to other clients. Publishing them publicly would help ensure. Yeah. Okay. So proof of reserves. Let me see. Wake up, babe. Old FUD is active again. You're new here. Never heard the mantra. Don't just verify. Okay. So I don't think Saylor has responded since I've gone live. Let me see. We'll see. Is there a response here? Did we get another response? No, doesn't look like it. Doesn't look like it. So as of now, it's a trust me, bro. We got to take his word for it. But I think, look, I don't hold strategy, but I would venture to guess that having the CEO, the majority owner of the company, to come out and say, dude, we hold it, we make sure that there isn't rehypothecation, it probably does make you feel better. Now, maybe that is some legacy fiat thinking. In Bitcoin, obviously, it's proof of reserves. I don't know what the social attack vectors or business attack vectors that would entail for someone like Saylor to prove his reserves. Obviously, there's been the criticism that, hey, El Salvador's done it. Hey, some of the biggest Bitcoin companies, Tether has done it. Like, why can they do it and you don't? Like, what's the big deal? Obviously, last year we saw the huge pushback of Mitchell Hoddle asking him this question. He did kind of snap on him. It caused all this type of drama. But if I remember correctly, and maybe you guys can fact check me, I think this is the first time he's actually come out on Twitter and said it. I think he's talked about it in interviews, but to see him come out here and talk about it, it makes you wonder, is he just kind of just sick of the speculation, the pushback, the haters? Is it the price that's getting to him? Does he look at this as like an attack on his company and he has to, protect his honor? I don't know, man. But if we take his word or what he's saying on face value, then you could venture to guess that all the other Bitcoin bought by treasuries, Bitcoin ETFs, and I'll go to BitcoinTreasuries.net right now. I would venture to guess that they also hold all the Bitcoin. As far as I've seen on blockchain, on-chain analytics, it looks like they are holding all those Bitcoins. Now, there is a simple supply-demand, economics that plays out in Bitcoin. And there is a little bit of paper Bitcoin, not necessarily in rehypothecation, but in, puts and options. Actually, there was a good tweet the other day going around about why Bitcoin feels stuck around this 95 to 85 or 90 to 80K range. And it's because of like Wall Street gains. When the price pumps, they hedge by essentially shorting it. When it dumps, they hedge by longing it. They're just kind of hedging their bets, and this is why it feels stuck. So we did show a lot of data last year with the idea that there's been a mass amounts of selling from OGs, as Peter Schiff, I say so, correctly identified. 100K was the number for a lot of OGs that have been holding it since 10 cents, $1, $100. And whether that was them rolling into ETFs, whether that's them just cashing out and securing some fiat, whether it's them transferring it into these various Wall Street products, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, from the exchange perspective, there has been a lot of selling. Now, the fact that we've held up at the prices we have, in the face of everything going on, I would say it's showing the resilience of Bitcoin. It's showing there is an infinite bid pumping up Bitcoin or floating it up right now. And at a certain point, there will be this make or break it moment where it's got to run. This amount of buying that we're seeing, it's not sustainable with the amount of Bitcoin that is hitting the exchanges via miners, via OGs. At a certain point, we will be seeing the price start to go up. So let's see. Public companies hold a total of 1.134 million coins. I'd venture to guess that they probably have all that coin. Private companies hold 288,000. Government entities allegedly hold combined 647,000. ETFs and exchanges hold 1.64 million Bitcoin. I'd venture to guess that they hold all those Bitcoin. Now, From past views, I didn't pull it up. From past views here, though, we know some exchanges don't actually have the Bitcoin. That's why we always say take Bitcoin into cold storage. This is the easiest, safest, best way to ensure that you do not lose your Bitcoin. Don't trust verified. That's where the meme comes from. Don't trust that the person holding your Bitcoin has that Bitcoin. Verify that Bitcoin by running a node and verifying that you are receiving real Bitcoin. Now, that has extended to the Bitcoin treasury space, that has extended to this proof of reserves idea, where I'm not going to give you my Bitcoin, or rather my fiat, and trust that you actually hold this Bitcoin, because maybe you don't. But it seems like Saylor is either getting tired of this or finally putting it to rest, though even this, I think, won't be enough for most Bitcoiners. They still want to see proof of reserves. Personally, I don't own Strategy. I don't know any of these Bitcoin treasury companies, so this doesn't affect me. But if we do go to the logical conclusion of if Strategy did not have all this Bitcoin and it did blow up, that would not be good for the underlying price of Bitcoin. That would be catastrophic. So it is a trust me, bro moment, but maybe this makes some people feel better about what Strategy's doing. I am on the idea of I'd like to see some more. But again, I don't own Strategy, so maybe people that own Strategy feel comfortable with just Saylor saying that they own it and that they put some kind of stipulation so that there is no rehypothecation. I would venture to guess that one of the best spokesperson around Bitcoin would probably, be smart enough to know that, yeah, you probably don't want your Bitcoin rehypothecated, especially if you are the biggest public entity to hold Bitcoin. You hold 712,000 Bitcoin. I'm guessing, he's smart enough to know that. He is a rocket scientist after all. I have a 42 IQ. Who am I to judge? But I definitely, verify my million sets. Okay. Anyways, let's see. Actually, are there any? Yeah, JR tokens get it. Eventually, Samson Mao will rewrite about his infinite bid thesis. Yes. Does anyone in the chat hold Strategy? Before I move on, because I do have a couple minutes till the Fed rate announcement. So if someone put the 1 minute charts for that, okay, I will do that. But before I do that, does anyone in the chat own Strategy? How does this make you feel? Because it'll give me enough time. Or actually, yeah. 1 second. Sorry, guys. I want to see if people in the chat feel better. Bitcoiner. Yeah, my boy. Bitcoiners in complete shambles. Let's go. Country Club Hillbilly, you do. Does this make you feel better? Is this enough for you to believe that they actually have all the Bitcoin? That's my question. Not just if you own Strategy. Does this, make you feel better about it? No? Chef Tommy, is that a no that you don't own Strategy, or no that it doesn't make you feel better? Yeah, exactly. This is what I'm saying. Jake Fever gets it perfectly. If he is lying, he's going to jail. It would be weird not to hold real Bitcoin. Yes, I own Master. This is what I'm saying. This is not just your average Bitcoiner, plebanon that's like, yo, I own this or I don't. And there's no, nothing happens to them. This guy has a different target on his back. I think I'm not saying, I'm going to trust necessarily. I do believe in don't trust verify, but he's playing in a different game is all I'm saying. Okay. Anyways. Let's hit the transition. I'll pull up the 1 minute chart. I'm going to pull up the poly market odds, which don't necessarily mean what's going to happen. And we'll do a live reaction to the FOMC rate cut announcement, whether we get one or not.
I want to give a shout out to our partner, HIVE Digital Technologies. Fueled by clean energy, HIVE has quadrupled its global Bitcoin mining footprint and channels that same scale into high performance compute, where their AI cloud is now ranked #1 in the world for network performance. At HIVE, you've got dual engines, Bitcoin and AI humming, roaring, accelerating in unison. They're lean and mean, they're green and clean, and they're rewriting the playbook on sustainable digital infrastructure. You can catch the latest buzz at Hive Digital Tech or at hivedigitaltech.com. I want to give a shout out to our partner, bitcoinben.io. If you're into freedom, Bitcoin, and building a real community, this is for you. Gain exclusive access to real-world, members-only, private clubs across the globe, featuring poker nights, expert-led classes, co-working spaces, educational meetups, live events, and more. Current locations include Sarasota, Nashville, Boston, Dallas, Las Vegas, and St. Louis, with new clubs launching soon in West Palm Beach, Scottsdale, Alabama, and beyond. Not to mention Bitcoin Ben's resorts in El Salvador. There's 3 of them, and they're absolutely beautiful. You'll also get access to the first fully backed Bitcoin bank with fiat ramps and savings accounts. It's called Private Key Bank. And you guessed it, it's based out of El Salvador. Go peer-to-peer with Bitcoin bulk buys. Tap into home equity for long-term Bitcoin growth. And join their exclusive mining pools if you're interested in mining. What are you waiting for? Head over to bitcoinben.io. Join today, where Bitcoin meets freedom.
Okay, guys, so we got 3 minutes till the Fed's decision on rate cuts, but I do want to bring up the poly market odds, which I don't necessarily believe is, gospel here, but this market, it's got some capital behind it, $647 million in volume. Fed decision in January. It's basically 100% no change. That's the prevailing sentiment right now, that we are going to see no change to the interest rates. But you guys want the 1 minute chart? Here's the 1 minute chart. It seems like maybe the price is pricing something. Maybe the price is pricing right now. So I'll keep the 1 minute chart, and then on the background, I will sweep and try to find these decisions for you guys so we can talk about it in real time. Again, a couple of minutes, so just maybe we do the Price is Right. Is Polymarket no KYC? I really don't know. I don't actually use Polymarket. I just kind of like to look at it. I know you guys might think I'm a gambler. I don't really gamble much. Okay, Bitcoin isn't a gamble. All right. Permalife says 375, no change, question mark, potentially. That's at least a prevailing sentiment right now. So 1 more minute. Just hold on. We're going to do a live. I came for the pleb slop and the 1 minute chart. You're in the right place. Let's see if Bitcoin has done anything important for me. It will have been changing my time. Honestly, I was talking to my boy Sal, my boy Sal, and I was trolling about his lowered time preference in all his life. It's kind of an inside joke. You know what I'm talking about, Sal. Okay, let's see. 1 minute chart live. About what? 30 seconds? 30 seconds. Give me 30 seconds and we'll get a live reaction here. And maybe we will see the price. Uh-oh. 1 minute chart. Dude, cortisol spiking on the 1 minute chart, boys. Okay. Dude, poly market odds freaking on point. So Fed leaves interest rates unchanged. Fed does not lower interest rates. We'll keep the 1 minute chart here. So let's see. What are they currently? Like 375, I think? I think that's where they currently are. Let's see what's going on here. So, dude, poly market is like, if you look at a poly market, betting odds with like significant volume, it's pretty damn good. It is pretty pretty good. Let me see. What are the current Fed rates? I believe it's 375. Current Fed rates. Dude, we're AI slopping. We're pleb slopping. We're poly market slopping. Okay. Effective federal fund rate 3.64. Target range set by Federal Reserve 3.5 to 3.75. So no change, 3.5, 3.75. Let's go back. Let me go back here. Oh. We almost had it, boys. We almost had it. Oh, shit. Okay. All right. This is where it's fun. We're just going to hang out. We're going to just hang out here for a minute. Watch the 1 minute chart. Again, it's not trading advice. This is for entertainment. You watch the 1 minute chart for entertainment to see real time sentiment on what people think on. Oh, dude. Are we going to 80K? Okay. All right. Let's go. Oh, all right. Well, this is what Bitcoin thinks too about no Fed rate cuts right now. Live dumping. Gotta love it. Got to love it. 30-second chart's pretty dope. Yeah, I don't pay for TradingView, so best I got. 1 second is even better. All I got's 1 minute, you know. So it's not as interactive. I would love the 1 second chart. I'd be addicted to the 1 second chart. 1 minute does have like a little bit. Grab the rail, boys. Ron, I've been watching the 1 minute chart exclusively for 10 years. You're a savage. You're a savage. Yes, so yeah, guys. So let's see. Yeah, this is a pretty good take. Jay Powell attempting to show Trump that he has bigger balls than the prez. Honestly, pretty good take here. Pretty good take. Yes, Chris is on point. Fireworks start when Powell starts babbling. All right, so guys, as I've been doing this for you guys, I've noticed a couple of things, and Chris is pretty much on point here. There's initial volatility right when the announcements are made. Then Bitcoin kind of starts stabilizing. And then the real volatility comes, you know, in 30 minutes when Powell's speaking, the price just starts spiking. It's absolutely insane to watch. Wouldn't be trading right now. I usually would say, you know, get your positions in before, you know, get your spot buys before, or I guess maybe your trades in before if you're really a trader. But just buy after the Fed rate cuts announcement or the speech. That's probably the best thing to do. So looks like we got a little volatility on the board. Buy the bill. Well, guys, pack it up. It's over. Yeah, it depends on no social social media. Grab the rails. I think he meant by like, oh, there we go, a little price action. There's the volatility. I think it's like you know, I imagined it like he asked what grabs the rails mean. I imagined it like a you know, like a surfer when you do a deep drop in on a wave, you know, you're dropping, you got to grab the rail to get into the barrel. So you can tell I used to be a surfer, but hey, dude, the volatility is back. What am I telling you? Look, we've been doing this enough. We know how the 1 minute chart works. All right, guys. We'll keep this a couple minutes. I'll react to some of your guys' comments for a super cycle. Let's see. JR tokens. Trump is going to officially announce his pick to the next Fed chair after Powell speaks to mute Powell's influence over the next few months. Honestly, that'd be insane, especially if he announces it's Rick Ryder from BlackRock. If BlackRock is now ahead of the Fed and ahead of the World Economic Forum, that will be very interesting. All right, my boy says it's more interesting what's going on in the gold market. So let's go look at gold. It's doing the same thing, bro. 1 minute chart on fleek. That is crazy. Look, what, 5 minutes ago? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, pumped into the announcement, dumped on the announcement. Way more volatile Bitcoin. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Pumped into the announcement. Absolutely dumped after the announcement. Now we're dumping. Okay, gold's digesting the information pretty good. All right. Well, he is right. I think, well, it did. General sentiment is probably pretty good. All right, we'll hold this out for a little bit. Anyways, like this. Let me see. Yo, minimalized man gets it. I like this. This is like we're all at the horse race together. Yeah, bro, we're in the trenches together here, okay? We're in the trenches, bro. Dude, I know the monthly chart, bro. We know. We want the minute chart. This is a minute chart segment. Just what's going on in the minute chart. We've been looking at the monthly chart. We constantly be looking at the monthly chart. Do not look at silver. All right, dude, tell me not to do something. Don't tempt me with a good time. Let's see. I'm gonna wrap it up here. Same thing. Now it's dumping. Okay. All right, guys. Well, I'll pull this chart up again. Look, volatility. The volatility is back. All right, guys. Well, Foxy, you know, I'm colorblind, so I need the blue and the red for the contrast. All right, guys. Love you guys. I'll see you tomorrow. End of the day. So, hey, no change in Fed rate cuts. It looks like the theater between Fed and Trump is continuing. Let's see who blinks. See who blinks first. Let's see who blinks first. All right, guys. We need the dude we kicked out from the FCC. All right. Yeah, chat is not saying anything important at the moment. Want to find out? Totally right. All right, I'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a good rest of your day. We are on Wednesday. See what happens. Let's see who's right. Let's see what thesis is right here. On that note, I'll see you tomorrow. Have a good rest of your day. Get outside, get some exercise, eat some good food. Actually, I think I'm going to cook a ribeye today. So maybe you want to cook some steak. I'm feeling a ribeye. Anyways, peace out.
Today's episode was brought to you by BitcoinWell.com, a Bitcoin-only platform on a mission to enable financial independence.